folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. It is so great to be along with you today. Big breaking news regarding Epstein and President Trump. Mr. President, I'm here to tell you I won't be talking about Epstein anymore. The warning has gone out. Don't talk about Epstein unless you want to hear the wrath of President Trump. And so we'll talk about how we tackle this now, because President Trump is doing so many great things. I don't want this Epstein thing to take away from President Trump's successes, but when you read his Truth Social post, he is not happy. And are the folks surrounding his messaging team going about this the right way? We'll talk about that, because there are folks that are very, very angry about Epstein. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to talk about what is going on at the State Department and the Department of Education. After the Supreme Court ruled, President Trump has great leeway in order to fire anybody who he wants, just about virtually, inside these state agencies. Now, the State Department has let go upwards of, I don't know what it is. It's 3,000 people, I think, that they let go. This is outside the State Department. You can see here people hugging each other, all upset about being laid off, people clapping. 3,000 people. About half of them took pink slips. The other half took early retirement. Now, I don't like seeing people get fired because I know what that's like to have to go through that. But when you look at the redundancies inside the State Department, the waste, the inefficiency, even technologically, like still using fax machines to hire people. They couldn't get a head count of how many people were actually working in the building. All of this is why we elected President Trump. And so do I feel bad for some of those State Department workers? They're not all deep staters. Many of them are just paper pushers. And I think many of them were cushy jobbed paper pushers that didn't have much to do all day and were being paid on the taxpayer dime. We're going to go through some of the clips, some of the inefficiencies, which to me are, quite frankly, shocking when you hear them. I'm going to lay them out for you. But before we do that, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. Now's the time to take an existing 401k or IRA and turn it into a precious metals IRA. We know that the BRICS nations are doing everything they can to sink the U.S. dollar. They are literally creating a Pearl Harbor event to try to sink the U.S. dollar. We know that there is great pressures on the U.S. dollar across the globe. Gold is not going anywhere, certainly not down. In my humble opinion, and it is only my opinion, you have to make the decisions what's right for you, but I'm going to tell you this. When it comes to trusting gold companies, Colonial Metals Group is the group that I trust. So I call it a portfolio protection maneuver. Start to think about protecting your portfolio, some of it, with precious metals. Freegoldguide.com/grant is the website I want you to go to. Freegoldguide.com/grant. 800-458-7356. 800-458-7356 is the number to call. They're great people over at Colonial Metals Group. All right. With that, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. State Department layoffs have started to unfold. These are pink slips, about 50% of them, 1,400. The other, making up to 3,000, is voluntary early retirement and buyouts. I love what President Trump and Marco Rubio are doing. And in some respects, I might make the argument that the best cabinet secretary President Trump has right now is Marco Rubio. And I think J.D. Vance is doing a fabulous job. Look, they're all doing great, but Marco Rubio is really doing a great job, and he's a fabulous communicator. He's doing a better job than I expected him to do. I thought he'd be good, but he's fabulous. So now we have these State Department workers ousted. Why were they ousted? The State Department was found to have dozens of human resource departments. Why would you need dozens of human resource departments for each department of the State Department? Think about a corporation. I worked for a publicly traded company a while back called Texas Capital Bank. It was a fairly big bank, not like JP Morgan, but a fairly big bank. One human resource office for many different departments, whether it was treasury or whether it was sales, whether it was communications, whether it was back office, whatever it might have been, one human resource office. The State Department has upwards of 60. That is inefficient. There was word that when you were getting information on a potential employee, you weren't emailing that information, you were faxing it. Did you even know fax machines still existed? Who in the world is using a fax machine? And even now, when I'm told to fax something to somebody, I use my app to fax. I don't actually pull out the. I don't think anybody is doing that. So you had a 50-layer approval process for many of the State Department memos. 50 people on the approval process. How do you get anything done? As Marco Rubio says, you got to move at the speed of Trump. You're not moving at the speed of Trump with a 50-layer approval process. So lo and behold, they've managed to lower that approval process to 12 people. Now, if you told me it was 12 people to start, I would have said, what in the world's going on? How about the person writes the memo, his direct report reads the memo, then that goes up to the division leader, and if it has to go to Marco Rubio, that's 4. 4 maximum, all right, depending on the memo. But no, we're down from 50 approval to 60. There's more here, but before I get into that, I want to play for you how the mainstream media is covering this.
Following this is out of Washington, as just in the last hour, termination notices were expected to begin hitting inboxes of thousands of State Department employees as part of the Trump administration's efforts to drastically shrink the federal government.
They're already starting this as a bad thing. We are drastically trying to shrink the size of the federal government. A small and limited government by and for the people. That's what we want. Not a large and bloated government by and for the deep state. No. So emails are starting to go out. Do you know that the email system is so outdated that they couldn't guarantee the emails would go out right away? So they said you could get emails over the course of 24 hours because the system was outdated. That actually isn't fair to put people through that, but so be it.
We're going to bring back NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba on this. Monica, what do we know? What do we not know about these terminations?
Well, Alex, we know that the termination notices were supposed to go out starting around 10 a.m. and that likely they would roll out for a couple of hours due to how slow the internal State Department email system is. So this is a situation where many State Department employees yesterday were put on alert. We're told that today they could be getting that kind of information. So to be prepared for that and to come to work with everything, they might need to return before leaving the State Department for the last time today. And we're talking about civil servants in addition to foreign service officers.
The reason we're getting rid of them is because their jobs were redundant. You had 5, 6, 7 people doing the same job. I read that when it came to tariff situations and sanctions in particular, there were a number of different sanction offices. You only need one office for sanctions, okay? But the State Department had many. The State Department still had a diplomats in residence program, which was described to me as a program for people to go out into the streets of Washington, post up at bars and restaurants, and recruit foreign service officers. That's what the diplomats in residence program was about. They're trying to end that. There was a climate change office. Well, we know how we feel about climate change right now. We don't need a climate change office in the State Department. Leave that for the EPA, and quite frankly, that should be downsized, if not done away with altogether in the EPA. How about the Afghanistani Resettlement Office? Now, last I checked, we had resettled all the Afghanis we needed to. We don't need that office anymore. That was after the disastrous pullout of Joe Biden. We have an Afghan resettlement program. Why do we still have that office? Your question is as good as mine. I don't know. It is wasteful. Now, this is just the State Department. You could imagine that every department across the federal government has a situation like this. This is Tammy Bruce, of State Department spokesperson. She's a friend of mine, and I think she's doing a fabulous job on Fox Business.
What's been unacceptable?
Oh, hold on a second. Let me up the audio for you here before I do that, because it didn't seem like it was loud enough. This is what happens when you run your own show, folks, and I'm happy to run my own show. Let me do this. Audio settings. I should have done this before. My apologies. Tammy Bruce, take it away.
What's been unacceptable is the creation of an infrastructure of the State Department. It became too big to manage, too big really to function efficiently. We're in the 21st century. We need to be, as the Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said, we need to move at the speed of relevancy. And it's not about the individual people. It's about the nature of the structure and a bureaucracy and what's created within that. The individuals who have been affected and those who are with the State Department, all of us are impacted by a structure that needed to change, still needs to change to some degree when it comes to becoming small enough to be efficient, to be quickly effective, and to have an impact on the issues when it matters. So this was not about the individuals. They're remarkable people who are patriots.
You know, let me just interrupt her there and say this. She raises a great point. As a business owner myself, you have to still be nimble. Even large-sized companies, even government agencies. When you have 50 people involved in an approval process, you are no longer nimble. When you are using a fax machine to hire and fire people, you are no longer nimble. With the rise of technology today and the use of AI and all the things that can make people more efficient. Now, I understand that's going to reduce the workforce. And I understand those people are going to have to find something else to do. But with a booming economy under President Trump, I'm sure they will find jobs. The reality is, and I have worked for companies and organizations where I saw the writing on the wall. The number one place that was the National Rifle Association. I will not lie to you when I tell you that I was making what I thought was a fabulous salary at the National Rifle Association. Far too high for what I thought I should be paid working for a nonprofit, but I wasn't going to question it. And I had other people, like coworkers, who also had programs on NRA TV making 2 and 3 times what I was making, into the 7-figure category at a nonprofit. And I said to my team, this cannot last. And lo and behold, it all imploded right before our eyes. So if something seems too good to be true, that you're going to work, taxpayers are paying your salary, and you're not doing anything for most of the day, you've got to understand at some point somebody's going to wake up and that's going to end. And you better figure out whether you want to make the decision of when you walk out the door, or do you want someone else to make the decision of when you walk out the door. I know what I want. I want to be making the decisions on that.
Who have committed as diplomats for this nation, for the State Department, but in fact were brought into an environment that never should have been created in this fashion, that became dysfunctional. So that's our commitment.
Dysfunctional, to say the least. So in the Rumble chat, White Eagle writes, State Department bring an empty box to work day. That's literally what they told some people. That's not even a joke. They wanted people to bring a box to make sure you could clean out your stuff if you were on the list to be fired. And so this is going to be the way it goes down. Now, what does the union worker say about all of this? What do the people inside the State Department say about all of this? I'm going to tell you about it here in just a moment. But before I do, I want to remind you, my friends at Energized Health are serious about helping you take your life back and get healthy. This is about intracellular hydration, getting hydrated at a cellular level. You start to shed body fat at a record pace. You start to ease joint pain at a record pace. You start to cure asthma, skin conditions, all from getting hydrated at a cellular level. So how do you make that happen? Go to energizedhealth.com. There's a masterclass there that you can watch, and it's great, and it'll explain it. And then there's testimonials, hundreds of them. Find somebody that looks and sounds like you and listen to their testimonials, and then ask the question, could that be me? And I'm going to tell you right now, yes, it could be. Right now as well, they have a My 555 challenge going on. 5 days, $5, 5 pounds guaranteed to lose. Okay? Go to energizedhealth.com. That's energizedhealth.com. And you tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. So I want to play this worker at the State Department who, let me see where this is. Here we go. Here we go.
Now that we have the tensions in the Middle East.
Here we go.
This is devastating. This is also self-sabotage. Pulling people back from the front lines when we really need them the most. Now that we have the tensions in the Middle East, ascendant China, and aggressive Russia, what are we doing pulling back the people who know how to deal with these tensions in the world?
And to those that have been...
So before I get to that guy, she says, what are we doing getting rid of people who know how to deal with tensions in the world? Last I checked, we weren't dealing with them very well. Last I checked, the Biden administration let those countries that she just named, like China and Russia, run ramshod over the world. Now, it's not working. President Trump has now reined all of these folks back in. President Trump has reined these rogue nations back in. He's given Russia an ultimatum of 50 days, come up with peace. Otherwise, there's going to be more sanction hell to pay. And so the people that are being let go, with no offense to them, I'm sure many of them were trying, but it wasn't working. They're mostly liberals inside the State Department. It is well known that that is one of the most liberal agencies in Washington. Most of them are liberal, but the State Department is one of the most liberal.
rift. To those that have been fired today, I just want to say I'm sorry. And you have deserved better than this. I think every single person, when you leave this building, you walk through out those doors for the...
All right. Let me just show you. They're holding up signs. Diplomacy matters. Now, you know you're a liberal if you're using liberal signs. Democracy is at risk. So what do you think? President Trump's the commander-in-chief. He's the chief executive of the United States. If you are working for him and your mission does not align with his mission, why would he keep you on? Why would you want to work there? Because you just wanted a paycheck, and it was easy.
final time, you should do it with honor and dignity. You should not do it out of humiliation and out of this type of weaponization of politics. You deserve better.
It's not a weaponization of politics. It's about reining our nation back in, reining our spending back in, getting control of a bloated government, doing away with waste, fraud, and abuse. And in the end, people are going to lose their job. And I understand it hurts. I'm not going to gloat about them hitting the streets. I know there are many conservative commentators out there that will gloat. I don't think all of them are, quote, deep staters. I think there are probably some high-level State Department employees and diplomats that most certainly are deep staters. I think most of them are probably liberals. Most of them probably thought they were doing good work. But they and their ideas don't align with the current administration. And many of their jobs, if not all of them, were overwhelmingly redundant. And because of that, they've got to go. All right, so this is a union president who represents a lot of these people, I believe, talking about the firing.
Department will begin the process of laying off potentially 2,000 of its employees as soon as tomorrow. What goes through your mind when you hear that news?
Well, first of all, that should not be a rush to implement these extreme layoffs. It was created by Elon Musk before, there could ever be a time to review and evaluate the consequences.
You see the mentality of those on the left. President Trump has been in office, 7 months now? 7, 8 months? That's not a rush to make a decision of who's a viable worker and who's not. It took them 3 months just to get a list of employees inside the State Department. 3 months. That alone should tell you who was running the show. They didn't want them to know who the employees were. So 7 months in is not a rush. And of course, they got to go back to blaming Elon Musk.
Now, we saw what happened when the VA did just that, right? The secretary dramatically scaled back Musk's plans. Secretary Rubio should also engage in the, same kind of careful analysis and, see what should be done. He should do just like everyone else. If you want a real good, productive federal government, I think that's the way to do it. They got the opportunity, in my opinion, here to make sure that the State Department continues to have the, time.
Oh, whatever. Let's cut them off. Cut them off now, as I like to say. Marco Rubio testified recently. It wasn't last week. It was before that. But what he talked about the waste inside the State Department, I did think it was worth playing for you before we get to some of the other situations I want to talk about today. Here's Marco Rubio.
I will say this. Even with the reforms we put in place and what we're suggesting is changes to our foreign aid, we still will provide more foreign aid, more humanitarian support than the next 10 countries combined, than the entire OECD, and far more than China. China doesn't do humanitarian aid. China does predatory lending. That's what Belt and Road Initiative is. That's what all of their aid. They have zero record of doing humanitarian aid in the world. And frankly, they don't know how to do it. They have no interest in doing it. What they're very good at is going into some country, making you a loan, and then holding that debt over your head. And that's what they continue doing. By the way, you have to hire a Chinese company to do it. So I don't agree with this assessment that there's no evidence whatsoever that China has either the capacity or the will to replace the U.S. in humanitarian assistance, in food deliveries, or in developmental assistance for that matter. We provide development assistance. They provide debt traps. And that's a point over and over again around the world that we've made, and we found receptive audiences to it.
Go figure, you got Democrats sticking up for China. China does provide debt traps, too. By the way, this Belt and Road Initiative, all it is a high-interest loan shark program. Hey, we'll give you money to build roads and infrastructure in your country, and we're going to charge you a tremendous amount of money. And when you default, guess what? We're going to take over those properties, those infrastructure, bridges, roads, tollways in many of the South and Central American countries. It's a literal loan shark operation. The goal is for you to default on the payment so China can take it over. Predatory is an understatement. It's criminal what China is doing. So, again, I'm proud of Marco Rubio. For Democrats, I'll remind you, for those that say that Republicans are heartless. So for those of you that say Republicans are heartless about all of these layoffs, firings, and for all of you that say Republicans are heartless for all of these layoffs at the State Department, I will remind you about Joe Biden and what he said to coal miners.
Anybody who could go down 300 to 3,000 feet in the mine sure and hell can learn how to program as well. Give me a break. Anybody who can throw coal into a furnace can learn how to program, for God's sake.
Yeah, fire all the coal miners and just go become computer programmers. What a jerk. So I'm not telling you that I don't have any sympathy for many of these workers being laid off. I'm sure they have families. Now they got to struggle to find a job. Many of them probably live paycheck to paycheck like many Americans. Hopefully they put some money aside for emergency situations like this. But they'll survive. They'll recover. People always do. It's hard. I remember when I got fired from Newsmax. You know, I had other things going. I'm a business owner, and I had other things. But, boy, that was hard. I don't lie. That was my dream job. That was the last place I wanted to get fired from. But you move on. And in the end, things can get even better. And I'm making more money now than I was making when I was there. And I have more control over the content that I put out because most of what I do now, I own myself. So there is a brighter future for those people that have gotten laid off. They may not see it now, and I know it's easy for me to say, but I've been there. So trust me on this. It'll be fine. Now, it may not be easy, like a job where you go into the State Department, you sit at your computer, you push a couple papers, sign off on this or that, go to lunch with your friends, come back and play video games. It may not be that easy. But things can get better. They absolutely can. All right. I do want to talk about California real quick. And Karen Bass is outrageous. She's claiming victory like Baghdad Bob, claiming that he pushed the Allied forces out of Iraq. So I'll get to that here in 1 second. But before I do, I want to remind you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. Such a great company. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. It's right here. I'm grateful I made the switch years ago when they started supporting this program. The service is fabulous, mostly because it's all U.S.-based, 100% U.S.-based customer service. I picked the network I want to be on. So you don't lose any service as far as connection service goes. You pick the network. But this is about supporting a company that believes in the things we do. And every time you make a phone call with a Patriot Mobile phone, you know that a portion of that money they're making is going to support Second Amendment issues, First Amendment issues, right to life issues, things that we believe in. If you're still with the old cell phone companies, you're funding the woke left and woke ideology. So I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to ask you nicely. Please give Patriot Mobile a call at 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Make the switch today. Use the promo code GRANT for free. I think you can choose either free activation or you can do a free month service, okay, which is a great savings. Free month service. Use the promo code GRANT. Or go to patriotmobile.com/grant, patriotmobile.com/grant, and you make sure you tell them that I sent you. All right. Karen Bass, and by the way, folks, I apologize about the Jerry Tarkanian. You remember him, the coach of UNLV who used to chew on a towel? The air conditioning went out in all places in my studio. So between radio this morning and this, I'm dying in the Texas heat with no air conditioning in the studio, but the show must go on. No doubt about that. Karen Bass, boy, this lady's a piece of work. So the National Guard is reducing its force. There's like 600 Marines that are staying in L.A. to make sure that the riots don't pop back up again. I want you to hear what she says about pushing the National Guard out.
Well, first of all, I don't think the troops volunteered. So congratulating them for stepping up when they were forced for this assignment, I think is inappropriate.
Wait a second. Because the National Guard members didn't volunteer for the mission, we don't thank them for what they did. What about all those Vietnam guys who went and had friends die, who went and gave their life? They got drafted. They didn't volunteer. Do we not thank them for their service because they were just mandated they go? By the way, when you're in the military and your commanding officer gives you a command to go take the hill, you got to go take the hill. You can't say, no, I think I'm going to skip out on this one. And when they go take the hill, we congratulate them. We don't say, oh, you didn't do it voluntarily. Karen Bass, you're so out of line. She keeps going.
But there was not lawlessness here. Did we have some problems? Think about a Laker victory and what happens after that. Now,
Wait. A Laker victory, NBA Finals, they start burning cars in Los Angeles. They start flipping over police cars in Los Angeles. So she's relating the what I would call immoral equivalency of celebrating a Laker victory by flipping cars and burning cars and destroying things to flipping cars, burning cars, and destroying things because you're protesting ICE, the one and the same. By the way, it's against the law to burn cars, whether the Lakers won or not. It's dangerous. It's violent. And if you're a dad who just went to that NBA Finals Game 7 and you're walking out of the arena and they're burning cars and you got a 7 or 8 year old kid with you, are you not nervous? But this is the kind of tolerance they have. So just related to a Laker game, no big deal. It, in some respects, gets even worse, her trying to legitimize all of this.
We are a city of 500 square miles. We had problems in about 2 square miles. It lasted for a couple of days. I initiated a curfew. We have had no problems or for weeks. So why were they here?
You've had no problems for weeks because they were there. Because you had the Marines called in. The National Guard called in. You had, yes, your police on high alert, finally, but it took the National Guard coming in to make that happen. And by the way, you want to say you're a city of 500 square miles and this only happened in a 2 square mile radius, so it's okay? I was at Ground Zero on September 11th, 2001. That happened within a few city blocks. That city is a huge city, New York City. But do I say, oh, it wasn't a big deal because it just happened within a few square blocks? Oh, well, it was only 2 or 3 buildings that fell down, not the whole city. What a lunatic bird brain comment. This woman is an idiot. I think she's just plain dumb because in many respects, I would think she's trying to dupe you, but I think she believes the bird brain nonsense she's spewing.
It is a misuse of the men and women who serve our country.
No, it's not. It's not a misuse of the men and women who serve this country at all. It was, in my opinion, the way to make sure that that the people of Los Angeles were absolutely safe. And that was very important that they were safe. Do I play more of her? I don't know.
Next to Chelsea.
Here.
Well, I think it's left the immigrant community terrorized, fearful, hiding at home, afraid to go out. We had July 4th that was supposed to take place across the street. Our city's #1 celebration for the anniversary of our nation that
How dare you celebrate July 4th when you don't think anything about freedom? How dare you celebrate the independence of America where you literally want to act like a dictator in Los Angeles, telling people what to do, how to live, and literally turn your back on the rule of law? I'm sorry the illegal aliens who came here to try to make a better life for themselves snuck into the country. But there is consequences for that. I'm sorry they feel like they can't leave the house. One of the reasons they feel that way is because you're spewing the fear-mongering to control them. So yes, traffic is lighter in Los Angeles. That's a real benefit for many of the legal Americans, American citizens.
had to be canceled. Why did we cancel it? We canceled it because we were trying to protect Angelenos from their federal government. Let that sink in. We needed to protect people from another branch of our government.
No, you didn't. The other branch of our government, the federal government, was protecting the people from your rioters that you encourage to riot, that you egg on. You're giving money to illegal aliens now, and you're distributing that money through Churla, which is a nonprofit that organizes, from what I'm being told, organizes the riots. The hypocrisy and lies coming from those in California in leadership positions like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are outrageous, and there are Californians who believe it.
Now I'm hoping that people will come out from the woodwork, that people will feel that they can leave their homes and go back to work, that the restaurants that were on the verge of closing will now be able to be maintained.
Hey, ding dong. ICE isn't leaving. The National Guard's leaving. The National Guard wasn't rounding up illegal aliens. ICE was and is. And ICE ain't going anywhere, sister.
4,000 independent businesses in the Garment District will come alive again because it's been a ghost town. This has taken a real hit on our economy. When there were raids near Altadena, when there were raids on the west side at the Home Depot, we need to rebuild both of those communities. And I think that I'm hoping that the people that do construction work will continue on because the rebuilding in the Palisades has been going along.
Oh, shut up. The rebuilding in the Palisades after the fire is not doing. There's 4 permits issued. But nobody in LA knows that because the mainstream media doesn't report it. 4 permits issued. And she just laid out all the places where she believes will not function without illegal aliens. Do you think that's a problem in America if we have industries that cannot function without people here illegally? I think that's a problem. We need to solve it. And one way you solve it is push it to the limits. And by the way, I think you push it to the limits, you'll have Americans coming out of the woodwork, as she says, to come take some of those jobs. Karen Bass doesn't see it like that, though. She wants to give handouts, and she thinks that if she gives handouts, people will vote for her and other Democrats. All right, do I dare do it and talk about Epstein? Maybe this will be the last time I ever talk about Epstein because President Trump warned me not to talk about it anymore. I'm not even joking. He really did. And so I'm going to tell you right now, as I've said to President Trump and I've said to his face, Mr. President, I'm your soldier. I got your back. I got you covered. I'm not crazy about the way this is being handled, but he wants us to drop Epstein. And so I want justice for the victims. I'm not concerned about Epstein, right? He's dead. I'm with the president on that. But what about the users of these girls? What about the taxpayer money that was used to fund the trafficking of these girls? Who was behind the so-called cover-up? These are legitimate questions. They're not trying to besmirch the good name of the Trump administration at all. And I promise you, at all. But he wants us to shy away from it. So I already had this plan. So we'll carry this out today and then see where Epstein goes over the next few days with the president. This is him yesterday on the tarmac at Andrews.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
All right, so let them have it if it's credible information. And I agree with that. I think there's going to be a lot of information that's probably not credible. I think a lot of the information has already been destroyed. I told you on this podcast, on the Real America's Voice show, on the radio program, months ago, just after President Trump took office, people would ask me, do you ever think we'll see the Epstein files? And what did I tell you? I told you no. I don't think we'll ever see it. Now, he says bad people are pushing this. I don't think bad people are pushing this. I interviewed Roger Stone over this. I interviewed General Michael Flynn. These are huge supporters of President Trump. I myself am a huge supporter of President Trump. We're not bad people. We just want to get to the bottom of what's going on. But in the end, is this the hill that I die on? No, it's not. We have other things to worry about. I'm not going to say bigger things because justice for these victims are important. But as Jen Horn, my co-host in the morning, is going to talk about here in a minute, maybe there's another side to this. Maybe it isn't as big a story as we thought. Maybe everybody blew this out of proportion for sensationalistic reasons. Maybe people, commentators, conservatives, prosecutors profited off pushing the hype of Epstein, and maybe there wasn't a lot there. We've only seen real 7 victims named. I know that 7 victims too many, but we were told there were thousands. How do we not have more people coming forward? We've never heard about who are the users. Prince Andrew was thrown in there, but that's it. Bill Clinton, I guess. Nobody else. Where is all this stuff? But then again, you have the convictions of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So, we shall see on that. Rocky in Florida wants a special counsel. He's sick of Epstein. Transparency is a lot of what we want, which is what I think. I don't want President Trump to think that his supporters are turning on him. They're just disappointed because they wanted transparency. And, one of the things I've been wondering is, when Biden was in office, did I make a mistake of not pushing for the, quote, Epstein list or Epstein files when Biden was in office? We gave him a pass. 4 years, Epstein wasn't a story until President Trump came into office, and now we're screaming and yelling we want the Epstein files. Maybe because we knew we wouldn't get them from Biden, but we should have held Biden accountable on this too. And frankly, that didn't happen. I want to tell you folks real quickly about my friends over at the Wellness Company. Have you heard about this new screw worm situation? This is a worm that affects cattle. We've shut down trade between Mexico and the United States for livestock. because this parasite is infecting American beef. Well, it turns out parasites are a real big problem. Skin conditions, a problem. Brain fog, a problem. That worm you see in your fish you get from your grocery store, you don't cook the fish properly, or you're eating sushi or something like that, that parasite is going to live in your body as a host. Well, the wellness company has a parasite cleanse out there. It has been sold out 3 times. There's a reason. Because Americans understand the importance of ridding your body of parasites. Your whole life comes back to you. Mebendazole and ivermectin, so many great benefits come out of going on one of these courses of the parasite cleanse that you're going to feel so much better. I want you to get with the wellness company, twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. It's super easy. All you do, you go out, you fill out an intake form, a doctor will call you, and then on the way, that parasite cleanse will be there, 3 months supply. And the course, it doesn't last 3 months, so you got some extras there. And this stuff works. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. And then don't forget about the emergency medical kits. Ivermectin in this kit, too. You got some very important prescription medications in here to keep you and your family safe if, God forbid, you can't get to a drugstore for whatever reason. Terrorist attack, natural disaster, cyber attack. Whatever it may be, you'll have prescription medications in your home. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. All right. Let me play one more clip of President Trump. Then I'll read you his Truth Social post. Okay?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release, yeah.
All right, so we're kind of getting 2 messages from President Trump. And again, I'm going to read the Truth Social post for you now. And this is really why I say, you know me, I'm a big fan of President Trump, but maybe this is why I say no more Epstein stories. Here we go. It's long. The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again. Just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier, the lying 51 intelligence agents, laptop from hell, the Dems swore it come from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom. And even the Russia scam itself, a totally fake and made up story used to hide crooked Hillary Clinton's big loss in 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They are no good at governing, no good at policy, no good at picking winning candidates. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will. Even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years, I have had more success in 6 months, perhaps any president in our country's history. And all these people want to talk about, with strong prodding by the fake news and the success of starved Dems, is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success, because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. So he says, I don't want their support anymore. Notice I started this program off, Mr. President, about the State Department and the success there and getting our government back under control. And I don't want this story to take away from your success. And I believe it is. And I don't think they're your past supporters. I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene is a past supporter. She's a strong, make America great again conservative who wants the best for the country.
Your recommendation is FBI and DOJ need to turn over all the information they have?
My recommendation is this case should not be closed. We have Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison right now. and her little black book was ordered to be sealed under the court. And it has over 2,000 names of rich, powerful people and politicians in that contact list. So it's hard. It's just, look, there's nothing wrong with asking these questions. There's nothing wrong with saying, we want to know more about this. And
so what are you going to do, Marjorie Taylor Greene? You know I love you. What are you going to do? President Trump is going to stick it to you if you keep talking about it. So what will conservative media do? I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about it in a way that certainly doesn't make President Trump look bad, because I don't want to take away from his success in any way, shape, or form. I do believe he's got a reason for whatever whatever reason it is why he's covering this up. And I told you I think it goes to the Middle East peace process. I really do. But maybe there isn't anything there. Could that actually be the situation? My co-host Jen Horn brought this up on the radio, and I want to play our discussion because this may be one of the most plausible explanations as to why we're not getting information about Jeffrey Epstein. Listen to this.
Yes, sir.
Here's the thing. You have come up with a philosophy around the situation with Jeffrey Epstein. You have come up with something so simple that nobody's talking about. I said, this could really be what's behind the lack of evidence surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein case. Now, I do believe that I think the evidence was destroyed, but your theory is unbelievable. So I wanted you to lay it out.
Yeah, it might have been destroyed. Look, anything could happen. Nobody knows anything. And that's what my theory is based on. What if this whole thing was just overblown from the beginning? I've watched, because I love true crime documentaries. I've watched a lot of documentaries on Jeffrey Epstein back from 2008 when people thought he was going to go to jail and then he didn't. There's no doubt in my mind that Jeffrey Epstein was an absolute scumbag, that he was a predator, and that he took advantage of young women, that was his thing. So there's no doubt in my mind. But we haven't even heard from that many victims of Jeffrey Epstein. The way this thing has been spun from the beginning, it was that there were like hundreds of girls who were brought into this trafficking scheme, that Ghislaine Maxwell was, helping recruit these girls. I mean, this is kind of the story that's been spun. And so I thought, other than Virginia Jeffrey, probably the most prominent witness, who, by the way, died, they say by suicide. Who knows? Because nobody knows what the heck is going on here. But how many other victims do you know? I mean, in the documentaries, there have been others. So I actually looked it up to see for sure what the exact list was of known Jeffrey Epstein victims. There are 7 that we know of. 7 known victims. Women from 2008 and maybe even before then.
Now, let's think of known users of these minor girls being passed around like sex toys. Prince Andrew was on that list.
The big one. And that's the one, by the way, Virginia Jeffrey said she confirmed those allegations. She brought them against Prince Andrew. So he's the main one on the list.
Beyond that, you throw Bill Clinton, you throw a bunch of names around, but beyond that, you don't really have anybody else, which is, you had raised, very odd.
Very strange. And that's the other thing, is that some of these girls said that they had seen Bill Clinton on the island. Because remember, that's where they would go. They would take his plane over to Epstein Island, and there would be massages and all this. But we don't even necessarily have it confirmed that Bill Clinton was engaged in anything. We just, I think, suspected because of Bill Clinton.
His dirtbag.
Right. So, and loves the women. So my thought is that maybe everybody has just, it's possible. Look, nobody knows. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. But could it be possible that everybody has just spun this story because it is so salacious that we've whipped it up into what we're seeing today? It seems possible and plausible that people have been profiting off of this story for a long time, and maybe no one's seen anything.
So your theory is that the story was so salacious, which it was, so surrounding the rich and powerful and the elite of America, that maybe this got spun into a giant tale that the truth doesn't live up to the speculation. And so this is why there's not this giant list, because there was no list.
Right. And clearly there are victims. Clearly there are people that were in Jeffrey Epstein's circle who were rich and powerful. Clearly we've seen that there are ties between him and the CIA. These are all true things. But I feel like you've had a lot of documentary makers. You've had a lot of people on social media who, by the way, are famous now for their coverage of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and their trial. You've got the influencers who went to the White House with the binder What has anybody really gotten? You've had people within the administration say that they're sure they've seen this stuff. You've had people in talk radio and in television say, oh, we know for sure. We've seen the documentation. But has anybody seen anything? That's what I'd like to know.
Everybody claims they've seen something, but nobody will actually give it up.
And they won't say what they've seen.
Right. It's very Adam Schiff-esque about Russian collusion.
And look, if you are one of these girls right now or one of these women who have been victimized and Jeffrey Epstein is now dead, and again, maybe it was suicide, maybe it wasn't. He's dead. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. You have everybody who is now going to be watching this for any movement from the rich and powerful. Wouldn't it now be the safest time for you to come out and also tell your story?
So, look, I believe something's there, but this is a plausible explanation. I used to say, all right, well, where did Jeffrey Epstein make his money from? It had to be from blackmail because there's no other place you could make his money. But then I've recently learned, thanks to my friends Mike Benz, who does such a great job. We used to work for the State Department. Now is I'm not even going to say I'm a commentator because he works for free speech and those kinds of things. But he's been so on the forefront of this. Through him, I learned about Epstein's not only ties to the CIA, but helping run guns during the Iran-Contra scandal. You know there had to be hundreds of millions of dollars made in that operation for people that were gun runners, and that's maybe where he made his money from.
Yeah, maybe. Again,
and maybe it wasn't a blackmail scheme.
There is something here. Obviously, there is something here. But what is it, and what have people really seen, or are they trying to profit from what is probably a painful story for a couple of women? And
maybe not because they knew it was false, but because they just expected it was true because everybody else had been spinning this tale that it was true. So the fact that Jeffrey Epstein may not be as prolific, well, he's a dirtbag, and he's a nasty dirtbag. I believe Pam Bondi when she says she has hundreds of hours of child porn downloaded.
And people have
to his
seen
computer.
that, actually, or at least we've heard from people who say that they have seen the pornography.
He had surveillance cameras all over his houses in Miami and his houses in Epstein Island.
But I'd say what rich guy doesn't have surveillance cameras? You have surveillance cameras, so do I. And I'm not even a rich guy.
Now, does that surveillance video exist? Probably. My other belief is that a lot of this, and I've been saying this on this program, has been destroyed over the years to protect people. But again, Prince Andrew didn't get protected, but everybody else is. You're telling me there's no non-famous multimillionaire that would have flown to do this? Like someone nobody's heard of,
That's
nobody
just
cares
rich.
about. Frank Jehovitz from Bethpage, Long Island.
Don't besmirch his good name, by the way.
Right,
Frank
but
Jehovitz.
nobody cares about the Franks of the world.
Yeah, I know. I feel like everybody has gotten caught at this point, watching what has happened and how the administration has really, and truly, I think MAGA is so upset because we thought that there was something here. Maybe we still think there's something there. We don't know about it, but maybe we think something's there because for the last 5 years, we've heard commentators telling us there was something there. And have they even seen anything?
So then what was the point, right, if we really dig deep in this? What was the point of the initial spin-up of Jeffrey Epstein? Who was it to get to besides Jeffrey Epstein? Because now we're getting word that Ghislaine Maxwell may testify before Congress.
I know.
The Daily Mail says that they have sources that she's agreed to do a tell-all in front of a congressional committee. Now, if anybody had the names, it's Jeffrey Epstein's pimp, which is basically what she was.
What she was, exactly right. And I don't think she's made it any secret that she recruited young women, but how many of them and for what purpose, I think, is the question. Was it just solely for Jeffrey Epstein, or were there other people that he was using to blackmail? Again, that's what we have to know.
Do you know that according to this source in the Daily Mail, and Daily Mail's pretty good about their sources, she was never offered a plea deal.
I know.
Now, I was always under the assumption that she was offered a plea deal. She was never offered a plea deal. The government has never fully asked her to account for her story.
And most of her story wasn't even told in her own defense, I believe, during that trial.
Which is why I believe they don't want you to know her story. Now, why? That's the other big why. So, what were they going after Jeffrey Epstein for? Did this totally get spun out? Did prosecutors spin this out of control? Did everybody spin it out of control? That it just became a snowball rolling downhill, that then nobody could stop it? And now Jeffrey Epstein, think about this, is still controlling politicians from the grave.
From the grave.
Pam Bondi may lose her job, or
That's
Jeffrey
right.
Epstein may get Pam Bondi fired.
I mean, seriously, Bongino almost walked out. He was going to go. I mean, the heat on Patel and on Bongino, on Bondi, it's real. It is real. So is he still controlling things by not controlling anything at all?
I like this theory because I like theories that are plausible.
Yeah.
Okay, we can bring in, they're protecting Bill Clinton. All right, I don't know. Maybe Trump
But why
would have
would they?
released that a long time ago. It's my other theory. I told you was this idea that there are Saudi princes on the list, Israeli higher ups. I don't know, Benjamin Netanyahu, who knows? But that this would upend the Middle East process. Why President Trump didn't want it released.
People
that would
who
be a reason
maybe he's
why
doing
he would
tariff
bury
deals with. I mean, you heard maybe there was a backdoor deal with Congress with the big, beautiful bill. I mean, there's all kinds of theories that are being floated.
That idea isn't plausible to me. There'd be too many members of Congress. If we believe what we're told, you couldn't make a deal like that to get enough people on board. Everybody would have to be part of that deal. I don't see that. But I believe President Trump saying, hey, I'll bury it.
Yeah.
For one or two people to get something in return, maybe, but then that would be,
For what
I don't know.
reason?
That seems more far-fetched than
855, or maybe it's nothing at all, as he says. 855.
Or maybe it is nothing at all. I don't know. She raises a great point, and that's why I love her. She's a fabulous, fabulous host. You guys should check us out in the mornings on AM 870, so 9 to 12 Eastern time, 6 to 9 out in L.A. on AM 870. You can tell Amazon just to play Alexa, play AM 870, and now I probably sent off Alexas playing all over the place. But or you watch on Rumble. We stream that show on Rumble, so you can find us there. You can certainly find me on the Real America's Voice show. One of the places I really want you to go, though, is to my website, GrantStinchfield.com. Please share this video, like this video. You can feel free to clip portions of the video, tag me in everything, Stinchfield 1776, and we'll spread this word together. That's what Stinchfield's Army is all about. Stinchfield's Army, rocking and rolling, and you're here. We got a big audience, so again, please hit the like, share this video, subscribe to the channel. That is super, super important for all of us. Beer for Man, thank you for watching. Rocky, Florida, thank you. Folks in the Rumble chat, just giving it a little look-see. Rio 36. Appreciate all of you being here, every single one of you. Again, Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thanks to all of you. Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We will see you there, folks. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Thanks for watching.